Welcome to Squirrel, the podcast for distracted writers, hosted by Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Squirrel. This is Candace.
And this is Jody.
And welcome to episode 9 of our season 2. And today, this is your spelling word for the day. We're going to talk about pluviophiles.
I've practiced.
Say it. Let's do it.
Pluviophile.
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 I love finding out the words for something that somebody loves.
Bibliophile is the lover of books.
Yeah. Yeah, pluviophile is a person who loves rain. And I think that a lot of us actually fit this description. There are people that just love rain. Have you ever just jumped in puddles?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really big, big rainstorms that come down and just not the scary ones, not the thunderstorms.
Not the ones that blind you when you drive? Because those are frightening.
Or, make huge puddles as you're driving home, or
I do like driving through really big puddles, depending on what I'm in, just to see how high the splash will go.
So yeah, that's what a pluviophile is. It's someone who loves rain. And we are in the changing season. It's starting to be fall where we are. And
this last week has been full of some really insane
cool
storms.
Yes, I have a lot of branches that I need to pick up from the wind and rain that we experienced. My stupid tree. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about rain. And
we can't talk about rain without storms. Come now.
Yeah, no, I love storms too. I do. But I want to talk about why it's so special. There are specific special things about rain that we as creatives use as a device. And that's what I wanted to talk about. So let me tell you, are you a pluviophile?
Of course I'm a pluviophile.
How so?
So I love listening to these really big storms as they crash over the house, because nothing is more powerful than a giant storm. And so with the wind and the thunder and lightning, I just love it, especially when like really electrical summer storms that have tons of lightning. I think those are really cool.
Those are cool. I love turning off all the lights and just watching that.
And then the other rain that's really special is the middle of spring, it's starting to get warm again, and you get that just really light drizzle. And it's the very first warm rain of the year.
Yeah. We don't really get very much warm rain here.
We don't get rain in the summer hardly at all, so.
I would call myself a pluviophile, probably.
I would call you a pluviophile.
I love the smell of it. Ooh,
petrichor.
Is that what it is?
It's called petrichor.
Oh my gosh.
That is the smell of rain on concrete.
Oh my gosh. There's something so amazing about it. I craved that smell when I was pregnant because I also craved ice. I just did not get enough water. And I loved the smell of freezer burn. So the smell of rain on concrete was so yummy to me. Sounds awful.
I think you were anemic.
Probably needed some chalk or something. I probably needed something else in my body, but
like you needed iron.
Yeah, I don't know. Calcium. That's what I was thinking. I probably need calcium. Okay, so I love rain, but however, I don't like being wet at all. I hate.
You're a cat.
Water on my face. I don't like to take showers. I prefer baths because I don't like water splashing on me.
It's a sensory thing.
So I really like the cool warm rain though, that with the big raindrops, they're like water balloons and they just pound you and you're like splash, splash, splash. That's pretty cool. I like that powerful rain. It's just kind of fun, right? I don't think I would be good in wetter climates.
Yeah, don't go to Seattle. So I think there's some movies that have some fairly dramatic scenes involving rain that are kind of entertaining.
Yes.
And I know you have one.
One that immediately came to mind was in New Moon when Bella is talking to Jacob and she's like, "Where were you?" And she's spitting rain. They are drenching her with rain in that shot. And I don't know if it's just the whole like Oregon rain or if they're just really showering her. But she could hardly speak. She's so wet. That one is really, really funny. I really loved. And then there was this, geez, I think there was a show when I was younger that I watched on PBS that I didn't remember what it was, but you found it.
I knew what it was.
Oh, I can't believe it. So there was a show, this is when I was really young, that about these kids that lived in this like tin box thing that never saw the sun. It always rained where they were, but there was like one day a year that the sun was going to come out and they didn't know how to interpret what was happening. And I didn't remember what it was called. What is you?
It's called All of Summer in a Day. It's a short story by Ray Bradbury, and it came out in 1958.
Oh, wow.
And the premise of the short story is that the sun only came out like once every 8 years, and they lived on a rainy planet. It was supposed to be a sci-fi-ish story. And the girl who had come into the class had come from Earth, where she got sunshine almost every day. And it had been a year since she'd seen the sun. And no spoilers, but this story has been out a while. The day the sun was supposed to come out, and it only came out for like an hour, they shoved her in a closet and locked her in. And then they all went out and saw the sun, which they had never seen before, and she didn't get to see it. And the argument is, who suffered more? For them to have never seen the sun their entire lives and to see it for the first time, or someone who grew up with it and then had it taken away, and then had it robbed from them again, their one opportunity to see it in 10 years. Yeah. And they wouldn't be able to see it again for another 10 years.
I'm going to have to read that.
It's a bit traumatizing.
Yeah.
Because it's childhood cruelty, but it's also it's a thought experiment.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a kid who had to read it in English class in high school and hated it so much. Well, because it was kids being mean.
Right. I remember seeing it when I was young and it stuck with me.
Absolutely.
Like, I didn't remember the name. I didn't remember anything. But I do remember this one thought of being in a world that was raining all the time and never got any sun. Mm-hmm. And I think that we feel sometimes when it rains a lot and we need the sun, we feel a little miserable.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why people have seasonal affective disorder. When all of a sudden the world gets dark and it stays dark, it's like we don't know how to process it and our bodies shut down. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it's really hard to have any emotion about anything. Mm-hmm. I found a really interesting example. Okay, The Truman Show. I love The Truman Show. And I don't know if you remember how...
I watched it not too long ago with my kid who had to watch it for their film stuff.
So when they wanted him to feel sad, or if they put him in a situation where they wanted him to feel reflected, because remember, he was in this forced artificial environment, but he didn't know, they would dump rain on him. And sometimes it would be really funny because he'd be like sitting on the beach, and it would be this just small circle of rain only landing on him. And like at one point he does realize that, and he's like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah,
like he's trying to
move. I think that's one of the defining moments where he's figuring things out, because he would move and then the rain would move with him.
And so like there's this really cool picture that you can find if you search it. It's just him sitting on this beach and this little circle of rain is just landing just on him. And so it was used to intentionally show that he was sad, and because it was a TV show. People were watching his life as a reality show. And so the producers of the show are like, we need to really drill in the point that he is down in the dumps instead of dump rain on him. Mm-hmm. Which I just thought was delightful.
It's the tears of heaven crying on you.
And so and it was bringing back, like, they killed his father off when they went out to sea, and there was a boating accident. Mm-hmm. And like there's all this different stuff they used, but that was one of the funnier examples of rain. Mm-hmm. And the other example is Shawshank Redemption.
That's a great moment.
Which is one of those movies that
it's cinematic.
Super
it's
cinematic.
One of those things that you always remember. You think of Shawshank and you think of the rain scene.
Yeah. And the context is he's been wrongfully imprisoned. He survives kind of being in there, and he overcomes and it's this ordeal and everything's kind of awful, but his goal is to escape. And so he comes up with this way of getting out, and he has to go through the sewers. And so when he gets out, he's absolutely disgusting, filthy, and the sky opens up. And he looks up and he raises his arms wide,
Yeah.
and he lets the rain cleanse him.
And it's very symbolic.
It's super
it's like
symbolic.
I've now, I'm clean, I don't know, baptized, I'm new, I'm fresh and new and out of this horrible situation.
Well, because part of the story is that he feels partially responsible for the thing that he was put in prison for, even though he did not do it. And so part of that healing and being free was saying, it's okay for me to live my life now. I've paid for that guilt, even though I didn't do it. So,
do you know if that was in the book?
I would have to check again, but it seems like something like that would be big enough that they would definitely want that to transfer over.
I'm just curious. I don't know. I haven't read it. This rain can really set a mood for a novel. Do you have any examples? Well, yeah. Do you have any
There's
examples?
There's some pretty obvious ones. But, okay, Wuthering Heights. Did you ever read Wuthering Heights? I hated it. I hated it so bad.
So long ago, I don't remember much.
It's one of those ones where I'm like, I'm going to read it because it's on the top 100 books you should read kind of list, like the big list of books.
Mm-hmm.
But in Wuthering Heights, like every time Catherine and Heathcliff are having issues with each other, it literally rains on them. I mean, they're already living in a quite dreary place, and they're quite dreary people living what felt like really dreary lives. But yeah, every time Catherine and Heathcliff would either like have a traumatic breakup or they'd have some sort of like just a lot of emotion between them, it would rain on them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like done very, very strategically to just show the reader just how miserable it was.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I was reading A Wrinkle in Time, it starts off with, "It was a dark and stormy night," which sounds like such a, I don't know, a cliche line.
It is a cliche line.
But it does say a lot about the novel in itself, where the storytelling is coming from. I was just going to throw that out. When I wrote To Dream in Daylight, there's a specific rain scene that I wrote because I wanted an emotional pull for the audience. I wanted a hurdle to be thrown at the characters to make them feel, right? So I wanted there to be basically a rainbow moment. So you're in this rain, you're feeling miserable, nothing's going to work out. And I really pushed the reader all the way to the end of the book here. But I wanted that feeling of sunshine, the feeling of seeing the rainbow at the end of the storm, where things start to make sense and things start to, like, the sun comes out and there you feel the hope from it. That's really one of the things that I wanted to put in the book. I usually specific rain for that.
We have to talk about romantic rain.
Yes, we have to talk about romantic rain.
It is such a thing, and it is, to me, it's just funny.
Have you ever had romantic rain?
Have I had romantic rain?
Have you ever been in a romantic moment in the rain? Come on.
The fact that I can't remember something specific says a lot about me. I probably have. The problem is I have such a hard time remembering stuff.
Oh, darn it. I definitely have, but I'm not going to go into it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So one of my favorite romantic scenes, I'm going back to movies here, is I'm not, hey, I did write that, and I really don't want to talk about The Notebook. Just right there.
What's sad is you're like,
the first thing you think about,
everyone thinks that has dramatic rain. I'm like, The Notebook.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about The Notebook.
It's like on
here.
the cover.
Yes, it is, and we're not talking about The Notebook.
Such a weird book.
There, I've mentioned that that I love this movie, but the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice.
Oh yeah.
When in the middle of the book, where Darcy confesses to Elizabeth that he's like, I really love you and I want to marry you type thing. How they did it in the movie was through a rain scene. So she travels through the rain to get to this, I don't know, weird pavilion that's beautiful. I got to find this when I go to England somewhere.
Soundstage 7.
No, it was that was not staged. It was beautiful. but it really captured the whole moment. It's very cinematic. I just it kind of showed I don't know, an incredible moment of longing and searching because he traveled through the rain to find her. I thought that
In
just
all those
enhanced it.
beautiful clothes.
Yeah, just the rain just kind of amplified that emotion. So it's storytelling within cinematography.
Very
Yeah.
nice. Okay, so I avoid romance when I can. It's never been my favorite, but if there's something they're like, oh, you've got to read it, then eventually I'll get to it. But there is something about rain that makes people vulnerable, and it creates invitations that doesn't exist like on a nice sunny day. So if it's raining, someone's like, oh, please share my umbrella. Ooh,
Like
come
that
here, come
song,
closer.
this bus
Sure,
stop. It's called Bus Stop.
there you go. Take shelter under my coat. Like, come under this awning with me. Come closer. Come closer. It's always this invitation in these romance stories. It's the rain gives people an excuse to come closer. And I mean, if you want to extend it, it also gives them excuses to take off their clothes. So romance, sure, it works. It's an invitation. There's soap, there's opportunity there. It creates all of these different situations.
You remind me though of like For Weddings and a Funeral. That was all at the end there. They were all I mean, geez. Now that I think
We can
about
get
it,
romance by rain, but what other emotions can we experience with rain? Moving on.
Yeah. Rain can create emotion. So why are we moved by rain?
Why does it evoke emotion? So usually rain is depicted as something kind of bleak and unpleasant. Like it's not pleasant to be out and get wet. Like most people don't like it. It's used to emphasize like a character's misery, but personally, I love it when it symbolizes the opposite. Like it'll symbolize rebirth and renewal and coming clean, like in Shawshank Redemption. I think that is when it's super powerful because it's always obvious. You're like, oh, they're sad. It's raining. Oh, they're miserable. It's raining. Like that's just so obvious. So when you turn that on its head, I think it's beautiful. Like it shows that difference. Like when it's been super, super hot and finally you get that summer rain and it's sizzling off the pavement. It's been so hot. And there's that steamy cloud that comes into, there's something magical about that. And then the rain is wonderful.
Yeah. I on the opposite from you, I like the hopelessness that 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 you just called derivative. I like the despair.
The world needs drama llamas.
Disparity of it that's tied to rain. So I was thinking of the battle at Helm's Deep, where they are cornered by this enormous like army of orcs, and oh yeah, it's raining.
Like, how could we make this worse?
Yep.
How could it possibly be worse?
And
oh
that's
yeah,
this
rain.
is one of those comic things where it's almost like a Bugs Bunny moment where what else could happen here, and it just starts raining.
They literally red flag it.
I liked how it just amplified the misery, so that when Gandalf did show up and things did,
and the sun started shining
right, exactly,
on the third day.
Oh my gosh, it was lovely.
I will geek out.
So anyway, it just again, I like the hope that you feel once the rain is lifted.
All right, what's our assignment?
Okay, for our listener assignment, I want you to write a poem or paragraph describing rain. That's pretty easy. And I asked Jody to do this, and she said no. She said no! Straight up no. So
if I write one, it will probably be a limerick or a haiku.
I have a poem, and I'm going to post it on the blog. And it's a villanelle. So if you don't know villanelles, they're very structured, and it was very hard for me to write, and I got a really good grade on it. So
well done.
So anyway, it'll be on our blog. Okay, sound good?
Excellent.
Okay,
absolutely. I love our discussion about rain today because I think it opens up the opportunity for writers out there to think differently about including rain in their own works, whether they want to do it dramatically or romantically or adding a bright emotional note or adding something sad. Like, I think there's so many opportunities out there, and I think we've had a good discussion about each of those things.
And symbolism.
Absolutely.
I really love symbolic rain, like you mentioned in Shawshank and how I mentioned it in my book. I don't know if rain is thought enough about when you're adding it into stories, but I love it when it's deliberate and it's a good storytelling element. Like you mentioned about the Ray Bradbury story, that was specifically, that was the story.
Rain became a character.
And that's exactly what I just said here.
Oh, sorry.
And it is a unique character in our stories.
Look at that.
If we use it right. You were reading my brain.
We are becoming synced, which means it's probably time to be done.
For some things, yes. Very good.
All right. I think this has been a terrific episode.
It's been fun.
Coming up next, we are going to dive more into how you can play with settings by playing with different biomes. We're going to go from the tundra to the jungle.
Yay!
And everything in between. If you like
anything
you heard today, remember we have a Patreon and a Buy Us a Book, otherwise known as Buy Us a Coffee. And if you haven't done so already, like and subscribe.
And share.
All right, this has been fun.
And dance in the rain.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Squirrel Podcast for the Distracted Writer with Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. Please like and subscribe to our podcast for updates and new episodes, and find more information at our website, squirrelpodcast.com. Stay distracted, everyone.
What did you call it? Pluviophiles?
I'm not saying it for... I will not incriminate myself. Pluviophiles.
I love this word. It's one of my favorite words. Okay, ready?
Never.